With John 6:63, when you get it, read that one verse.
It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
He said, the words I speak to you, they are spirit and they are life. So let us keep the word of God and grow with the word of God and constantly humble ourselves according to it and purge out that. So we can be the sons and daughters of God according to the faith by us being led by the Spirit, not by our own flesh. Your flesh will get in the way, and Paul talks about this. Let's go now back into Romans. We're going into the 7th chapter. Romans 7. Romans 7, and when you get there, I want you to pick this up at verse 5. This is a conflict that Paul was having. But Paul wasn't having this conflict because he was some weak man. This is a conflict that we all was having. In fact, Paul, the Lord revealed unto him things that we have to learn from Paul. However, Paul was a man of the flesh, and he understood the carnal of the flesh. And these are the things that he wrote for our admonishment, so that we know what to look to towards the struggle. And this is the word of God we read here. Chapter 7, verse 5. Go ahead and read.
For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sin, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death.
Now, when we were in the flesh, when all we thought was fleshly things, carnal things, the motions of sin, in other words, the desires, the feelings, the thing that make you want to go do what you got to do. You know, sometimes when you're out in the world, brother, single, you know, you see a lady walk by, you know, big posterior or whatever, you look and you like, man, I can't help it, I got to look. That's the motions of the sin. That fleshly mentality that wants to fornicate, you know, that wants to get drunk or stay high all the time, or, you know, want to do all of these things. I got to go hustle and make me money because I want to go do this or go do that. The motions of the sin. What it did was when the law came into your mind, when you were taught the law, now the law started to tell you what the motions of these sins were. And it started working into your mind things that were bringing you fruits unto death. In other words, yeah, I was a fornicator. I used to mess with this girl, mess with that girl. I thought, hey, that's just how it is. If anything, I pat myself on the back. I thought I was a player. Till you start reading the law. And all of a sudden now I realize this whole player gonna die. And every situation that I've planned myself in is a situation that brings problems and chaos.
That's right.
You got brothers out here dealing with 2, 3 girls. Not maybe one girl, man, don't care. She getting hers like you get you. But then you got 2 of them, man, I think you her dude. Now one blowing your phone up, you don't want anyone to answer that. The other one wants you to come pick her up, take her to mama, cousin on over here, blah, blah. Now you got to play chauffeur for them. It's madness. And I'm telling you this because not only I went through it, I done heard many of brothers done went through it. Patting themselves on the back for being that dude, but yet constantly overloaded with so much of problems and who they got to take care of because it all leads to death. Stress, headaches. Now you popping pills and you got to drink more and smoke more and do all this stuff that leads more to death because of that carnal mind. And he said, listen, that brought forth death. So I want you to skip down to verse 14 to read.
For sin shall not have dominion over you. For ye are not under the law, but under grace.
No. 14 to 7. 7 to 14. He was at 6 to 14.
Oh, Romans 7 to 4, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, brother. But yeah, and that's even correct. Sin does not have dominion over you. You are not under the law, but under grace. But that grace only comes if you continue to serve God and keep His commandments. But go ahead, read 7 to 14.
For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin.
The law is spiritual because although the law tells you what your sin is, it is up to you to fulfill the righteousness of it. It's like me giving you this book. I can give you this book, but this book ain't nothing until you open it up and start reading the pages. Allowing what you read and you start learning it and putting it into action. Then the book becomes, you know, what it is, spiritual in a sense. Same thing with the law. The law tells you to do thus and thus. That's it. But until you have it in your heart to serve God in a humble manner, in a manner of charity, kindness, then now you are fulfilling the righteousness of the law. So he said the law is spiritual. He said, but me, I'm carnal. I'm sold unto sin. I ain't number flesh and blood. Every time, man, something, man, lustful come along that ain't good for me, I'm sold. What's your price? He bought me. If it's something I can get away with it, oh, I'm bought. That's just how we are in the flesh. There's very few of us that honestly, righteously can turn away from sin with a whole heart without being bought. But for most of us, for the most part, and this is honest talk, if we can get away with it, to this day we'll still do some things we ain't supposed to be doing. To deny yourself that, knowing that that is truly within you, is a lie. I don't see the sun go down. Some people still doing things on the Sabbath day, sundown, but ain't nobody around to catch them doing it. So, hey, as long as nobody don't see me, I'm good. That is the nature of the flesh. Now, let's go and skip down to verse 18 and we're going to go on.
For I know that in me, that is in my flesh, dwelleth no good thing.
And no good thing dwell in any of our flesh. Go ahead and read.
For to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good, I find not.
He said, the will is in me. I want to do good, but how do I perform that good? Man, I find it not. Situations come up. I find myself struggling. But that's the first thing you need to do is admit, humble yourself and realize I need help. And stay in constant prayer with the Lord. Prayer ain't always getting on your hands and knees and, you know, making a formal, they call it prostration. You don't have to make a formal prostration. You pray, you can be at work, doing your work, you praying in your mind. Constant communication. Forgive me, Lord, I know I shouldn't have had them thoughts. I just, Lord, please give me strength. You know, pray, Lord, Christ Jesus' name, allow me to exercise strength, but lead me not into temptation. You know, pray in your mind constantly. But like Paul, he admitted that I don't have that will. He ain't walking around puffed up, but I know the law, and I know I got to do good. Paul admitted, man, listen, the will is with me. I just don't know how to perform that will. Long as we have that mentality, we're in a lot more better shape. But I'm going to show you tonight. Matter of fact, I want you to get down to something that I didn't read here, or either that I didn't write. Back up to verse 7, because we want to know what the law does. Go ahead and read.
What shall we say then? Is the law sin?
Is it sin because it tells us, it shows us all of the sins that we have in our mind and in our stuff? The law tells you everything that you're doing wrong. Is it sin? Go ahead and read.
God forbid.
God forbid.
Nay, I had not known sin but by the law. For I had not known lust except the law had said, thou shalt not covet.
And if we read that in the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, his manservant, his maidservant, or his ox. So I knew that when lust come up in me, I can't lust after things that the Lord told me not to lust after. But I'm even taking further than that. Let's go to Numbers, the 11th chapter. I'm going to show you when Israel, when the forefathers was in the wilderness, after a while, the Lord fed them 40 years with manna. He rained down this bread from heaven. Man ate it and gathered it every day. Got to a point where a mixed multitude, the different bloodlines that came out with Israel, started lusting. And Israel started lusting. And the Lord going to deal with them for lusting. And this right here is a good example of that carnal flesh that don't want to obey. That carnal flesh whose will is to do what it wants to do. That leaven that was spreading throughout the nation of Israel, or before there was a nation, when there was a people coming out during this time. Numbers 11, and when you get it, I want you to pick this up at verse 4. Go ahead and read when you get it. Numbers 11 and 4.
And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting. And the children of Israel also wept again, and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, and the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes.
Now he says the mixed multitude that was within them, they fell a-lusting. Now they wanted to, because you figure these are Egyptians or Ethiopians, whoever else, that wasn't a physical seed of Israel. And they started lusting because this is just what they culturally was raised. And now Israel started lusting. They remember all of the good things that was growing freely in Egypt. Egypt had a lot of vegetation around the Nile River. And only thing that they started to look at is this manna, and they began to loathe that. Skip down to verse 10.
Then Moses heard the people weep throughout the families.
And it got that bad that these people got heavy. They started weeping, crying because they can't get what they used to eat. That free will, that free stuff. Go ahead and read.
Every man in the door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. So
now the anger of the Lord is kindled, and he's going to deal with them. Go ahead and read verse 11.
And Moses said unto the Lord, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me?
It got to the point that this got heavy on Moses.